About the crowds. Well, at this time in the show, we always show you something that's trending on social media. How about this? You couldn't get
9,000 views and 171,000 views. These were the YouTube numbers for two news conferences held prior to the 2026 Australian Tournament. Open. A 20-year-old Filipina who would lose in the first round had the higher number. The lower figure was owned by the top person in the world. After watching this video, you will know why she goes by Alex Eala. This week, the world number 1 entered Wimbledon protecting her reputation, while the number 29 seed entered. In defending a nation, if you've been in this situation since the Junior US Open or the Miami semifinals, since her name was spelled incorrectly by the seeding committee, you are the target audience for this channel. Join the others by subscribing. Of the Filipino army that has always been correct about this narrative, you are already familiar with Mallorca. Tail. The ranks are already known to you. Put all of that aside for a bit. 5 days before to the start of Wimbledon. In Birmingham, Eala won her first grass court trophy. She defeated the world 2 weeks prior to it. Number 2 Aryna Sabalenka in Berlin and ran all the way to the semifinals. Alexandra Eala gave an absolutely amazing performance. On Saturday, on June 27th, she entered Wimbledon as the first Filipino after practicing for 2 hours on the Irangi grass. Place that against the opposing side of the bracket if you have ever been seated at a Grand Slam. Eala spent the week responding to. Aryna Sabalenka spent hers responding to inquiries concerning her people. The Guardian published an interview on June 27th. With the term bitch in the headline, and the world number 1. Reuters had cited Sabalenka 3 days prior. After losing the Roland Garros quarterfinal, she acknowledged that she had fallen into what she described as a deep, dark hole. After a defeat, she told reporters, "I just want to quit tennis right now, but we'll see." In her own words, "A few days, we'll find out. I'm hoping to get back on course. Right now, all I want to do is stop playing tennis." She was described by British media prior to Wimbledon. Press conference as an interrogation. Sabalenka has not made any public remarks against Alex Eala or the Filipino supporters. And in this tale, the building's loudest sound is that silence. Because even though the number 29 seed was asked which Tagalog term she would use to defend her characteristics. Desired to display the prize, let's begin with the figure that was recorded by the BBC in January, Eala's Australian Open press conference, 171,000 YouTube views. Carlos Alcaraz, 29,000, Coco Gauff, 29,000, and Aryna Sabalenka, 9,000. The world number 1 was not the most watched WTA player in the world during the season's first slam. An unseeded Filipina was the one who had yet to win any games in Melbourne. Then the lines appeared. The tennis reporter for the BBC in Melbourne described Court 6, an outside court with 1,500 seats, being jammed by thousands of Filipinos. With a line that goes through the grounds for several hundred yards, it was stated aloud by and Kyotha Vong on BBC Radio 5 Live. The lines were unbelievable. Who makes up the scheduling team? The official comment from the Australian Open regarding X was an institutional white flag. They stated they would use it as a lesson. A Grand Slam competition recently issued a public apology for underestimating 120-year-old sketching power. The word reached the All England club by March. Eala showed up at Wimbledon in 2026. Became the 29th seed, the first Filipino to be seeded at a major in the 147-year history of Grand Slam tennis. This is not a milestone for me personally. This is a structural change made by the most established organization in the game. Then came the Lexus Birmingham Open Final takes place in Birmingham on June 22, 2026. Eala defeats Nikola Bartankova. She won her first WTA Grass Court Championship 5-7, 6-3, 7-5. At the trophy ceremony, she approaches the microphone. She doesn't start by thanking her academy. She doesn't start by thanking her coach. She turns to face the throng and says, "Maraming salamat mga kababayan sa support" in Tagaloga. The people are home, not the location. Many thanks. Thank you for your support, my countrymen. The people, not the location, are what make a place home. The entire Filipino army has been anticipating that sentence. For someone of this caliber to speak into a championship microphone, at that point, a fan base ceased to be a narrative about a player and turned into a narrative about them. If you've been informing your pals about this for the past 2 years, one was different. You weren't early, this wasn't hype, it was history, and Birmingham was the receipt. You were right. 2. She had dispelled any last doubt about the tennis itself weeks before in Berlin. In the round of 16, she defeated world number 2 Elena Rybakina in the quarterfinal. She defeated Aryna Sabalenka. Linda Noskova defeated her 6-2, 6-4 in 69 minutes to win the semi-final. The chance for potential had stopped coming from the spectators. They were supporting a competitor who had just eliminated one of the top 2 players from a competition. Additionally, on the opposite side of the globe, on the record, the world number 1 was collapsing. The Guardian piece, The Deep, Dark Hole, the Roland Garros quote, 2 players, one carrying a country and the other defending her reputation, are approaching the same fortnight. When you need to decide whether. You can't ask a fan what has changed in this sport. You ask former British number 1 and Keithaving. Veteran BBC tennis pundit who has served as captain of the Great Britain Billie Jean King Cup squad. Observed 2 decades of Grand Slam audiences. Ko Thavong noticed what was going on outside Court 6. She didn't use diplomatic words in Melbourne. She pointed at the schedule, reaching for disbelief. Team. That is not a light-hearted comment from a former national number 1 on national radio during a Grand Slam. This institutional official is openly stating that the tour has not yet developed the capacity to. Alex Eala is not alone. She has an audience with her. Greg Rosetsky, a USA former world number 4, an Open finalist. Ayala's breakthrough slam may occur this fortnight, according to a Wimbledon mainstay, who emphasized the Filipino support as a contributing factor. When 2 voices from the top 10 era examine the identical 20-year-old and reach the same conclusion, the conclusion is no longer an opinion. Perhaps Alex Eala benefited the most from the Wimbledon draw room of her professional life. Sabalenka is currently in the first quarter. Eala and Iga Swiatek are in the same section of quarter 3. And Serena Williams, who is back. Before the final, the 2 women are unable to meet if Eala prevails in her first game. She may face Serena Williams in round 2 against Renata Zarazua. This is the runway. On the court, Sabalenka is not losing. She is being streamed on YouTube, removed from the grounds, and saved by a player she won't see online at the scheduling office. Net unless they both arrive at the last Saturday. Zoom out even more. Throughout the modern period, tennis has been organized throughout Europe and the axis of Anglo-America. There are 117 million people living in the Philippines, including a diaspora. The British government is counting. Wimbledon has been surrounded by hundreds of thousands of people in the UK alone, many of whom work for the NHS. Since the draw was cancelled, it's not a niche. The WTA has never had to cater to that market before. See what transpires next. Wimbledon first round matchup with Zarazua, potential round 2 matchup with Serena Williams. Then the US Open Series, followed by the 2027 Australian Open, when you can be certain that Melbourne Park won't place her on court 6 once more. Eala has never pretended that any of this is a fairy tale. In January, she lost to Alicia Parks in the opening round of the Australian Open in front of those same Melbourne spectators after winning the first set 6-0. She lost early in Roland Garros. Just last week, she lost early at Bad Homburg. When ABS-CBN questioned her about the Bad Homburg exit on June 26, she did not point the finger at the schedule, the surface, or the focus. She remarked, "I think the conditions were challenging for me today, so I did the best I could with what I had." 5 days later, she was lifting the 9,171,000 Birmingham trophy, which was stuck outside Court 6. A victory speech in Tagalog, the elimination of a top 2 player in Berlin, the first-seeded Filipino in Grand Slam history. A number 29 seed going into Wimbledon, and a world number 1 defending the term, bitch, in a national newspaper. It is only carrying a nation, not defending anything at all. The world's greatest women's tennis player is Aryna Sabalenka. The loudest is Alex Eala. Additionally, on a draw sheet at this Wimbledon, they remain in opposing halves until the variable that no one on the tour has figured out how to solve is loudest on the final Saturday. This is the debate-worthy question. About in the remarks. Does Alex Eala attend SW19 during the second week? And who becomes the greater story if she does? What time is the final? When the weekend comes, either the top seed in the world is defending her position, or a nation is trailing behind. If you have been in this position since the Junior US Open, the Miami semifinal, or even before the seeding committee. This channel is designed for you if you know how to spell her name. The first persons who saw it spoke to each other in this room. All the way through Wimbledon and into the US Open swing, match after match. Join the others by subscribing. Of the Filipino army, which has been correct about this tale from the beginning.